All right, welcome back to Financial Clarity for Doctors. I'm Corey Janoff, joined as always by Rachelle Vanderzanden.
Hello.
And today we wanted to discuss navigating career transitions, mostly within medicine. Occasionally, doctors will leave medicine completely or maybe go from practicing medicine to working at a pharmaceutical company or a medical device company or insurance company. But in all these scenarios, the things we discussed today will be applicable. But where should we start? Maybe why you might want to leave your
hmm
current setting in the first place?
I think that makes sense. I think there's lots of reasons that people consider leaving their jobs, especially if they're not happy. If their current job is not an enjoyable job, or sometimes it's like you're not utilizing the skill set that you wanted to use. Maybe you really enjoy research and you just don't get as much research time at the current job that you have. Could be like professional growth and development. Maybe you're working in a facility where there's just not a lot of challenging cases and you'd prefer to be a little bit more challenged. So there can be, or like even specific procedures, like, hey, like if I were in a bigger hospital system, maybe there would be more of these procedures that I could complete and kind of focus in on the things that I spent so much time learning how to do. It could also be like where you're at, geographically speaking. Like, are you in the city or state that you want to be in? Are you near your family? Are you in an area where you like the weather and can do the fun things outside that you want to do? It could be like you want better opportunities for your kids. You want to be in a spot where there's better schools or, more sports opportunities or whatever it is. Maybe you wanted to pursue farming. You wanted some acreage so you could grow a giant vegetable garden. And where you're at, that's just not doable. By the way, you're going to spend more money doing that than you're going to collect in greens and things, just so you know. I know from personal experience. But
Yeah.
there's lots of other reasons. Money is probably the biggest one for, well, I mean, we think it is because that's our job. But you may be going from like an academic job to private practice. Maybe your loans are forgiven and you feel like the world has opened up to you and now you can look at all of the different job opportunities that are available. There can be so many things.
It could
Corey,
go
what
the other
about like what
direction.
individual?
Like you could
Yeah.
go from private practice to academics or a hospital-based employee. Maybe you just don't like either being part of the business side of things, being a business owner if you're a partner in a practice, or maybe the practice is kind of flailing, it's being squeezed out by the larger hospital system in your area, and you just kind of throw your hands up and say, I'm done. Let me just go work for the hospital. I'll make more money anyways, or you want to get into research or something. I think most people who do research, they kind of start that trajectory from residency, do a fellowship, join an academic institution right out of the gates. I find it rare that people would go into an employed position or private practice then to go back and decide they want to do research. Sometimes, like I have some clients who like do a little bit of research on the side in a private practice setting and have competed for some grants for certain projects they're working on. But that's, I think, the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's hard to go back. If you've
yeah,
like taken a break from research, you may
yeah.
not be able to like go back and do that. Yeah.
But yeah, the money thing's a big one. I think money and the setting, I guess they're all kind of intertwined to some degree, but if you can be doing the same thing for more money elsewhere and all else being equal, make more money, similar time off, similar benefits, similar uh, procedures, etc. Or maybe you could have the ability to earn more through certain means, whether that's um, work harder for take more call shifts, get more money, RVU bonus compensation is more robust, ability to pursue additional income streams like consulting, or maybe do some med legal expert witness work on the side, speaking, etc. The debt component, some places might offer student loan repayment, which I think is more common in more rural areas to try and attract talent there. Like, hey, you come work at our Indian reservation, we'll give you 50 grand a year to go towards your student loans every year that you're here, and could be a decent option if PSLF just isn't in the cards for you, or even if it is in the cards, it just helps accelerate it. I don't know, but but yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of different reasons. I think work-life balance is a common one. I've had some clients decrease the income simply for uh, a little bit more relaxed job for to avoid burnout. Current place is understaffed. You're overworked. They can't hold um, nurses, doctors, whatever. You're covering for other people's shifts all the time. You're sick of taking call on nights and weekends. You want to be able to
Or
go to
working
your
nights and weekends.
yeah, or working nights. I mean, you want to be able to go to your kids' soccer games. Like, a lot of reasons why you might want to leave your current employer. I think everyone could probably think of some reasons why they might want to leave their current job. No job is perfect. There's downsides to every single job out there, but the goal is to try and find one that's more good, has more upsides than downsides is the ultimate goal.
Yep. I think it's important when you're thinking about these things to try to compare things in a way that makes sense. Like it's not just salary. It's not just benefits. It's not just time. So you want to look at like the whole picture for each of the jobs that you're considering. When we're thinking about the financial side of things, like the financial considerations, or at least the big ones, are obviously top of the list, like income and bonuses, whether it's like a fixed salary or production based pay. Your ability to like boost your income with productivity and RSUs is important. When you're looking at that with a prospective new employer, it can be a good idea to be like, hey, what's like the average that people bring in their first year? What's the average that people bring in their second year? And maybe you won't be average, but at least then you have some sort of idea of what that's going to look like. And you can also ask them about, how is it likely that I will have a fairly full practice at the very beginning? Or am I going to have to kind of like do some work to get extra people in the door? Like how quickly am I going to be able to get hit the ground running? All the sayings that I never can remember all the way. Yeah.
Yeah, is it plug and play? They just need someone to serve all the patients they have, or are they bringing you in to help build
Mm-hmm.
that group, that practice out? And it's going to take a few years to maybe get back to your pre um, income level, but then you have the potential to earn possibly more once it's fully up and running.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we've talked about the research component. Is this new place more attractive to getting donations, grants, etc.? I mean, generally speaking, if you're going to academics, that protected research time is challenging for a lot of folks to receive because research doesn't in the short term make the hospital money, and it's costing them money to have you do research. Yes, your salary might be funded by grants, um, so it's offset to some degree, if not completely, but still, like they want you to do that clinical time to make some profits. So, but long term, successful research can lead to donations, a greater likelihood of receiving grants in the future, et cetera. So um, it's kind of what are your pursuits that you want in your career? The let's see, you added this time is money.
Yeah. I think it's important to like when you're comparing jobs, pay attention to how much you're going to be working. Like, how long are your shifts? How many shifts per month are you going to be required to do? How much paid vacation time do you get? And things like that. I recently had a client who was looking at switching into private practice from the VA for like a lot of the reasons that we've already talked about. Like, she was like, okay, I could probably make more money in private industry. Like, I will have more challenging cases, which I'm kind of looking for. And she really kind of liked her job, but she was like, I want to know what else is out there. So she had another position that she was looking at that obviously paid a lot more. But then when she got down into the details, she was like, oh, like when I look at how much they actually want me to work versus how much I am currently working, it is quite a bit less, like per shift, than what I'm currently making because they want me to do less shift or more shifts. There's like less vacation time and things like that. And even financially, it didn't make sense. It was like, oh, this is a lot different than I expected it to be when I actually did a little digging into the numbers. So don't let like a big salary number kind of turn your head. Like that's sure, that's part of it, but you have to look at like what you need to do in order to earn that salary. It's so important.
What's that dollar per hour amount
Yeah.
to? And maybe you're okay with
Yeah.
working more to ultimately make more money at the end of the day, even if the dollar per hour is a little less. But that's kind of a
But you could
personal.
do that. Like you could keep your current job and not work as much and, do some moonlighting on the side and still make more money that way. So
If they
there's like
allow it.
well, I mean, like with the VA specifically, for sure. Like
Yeah.
she could, like, or I mean, a lot of employers may have some sort of non-compete, but it's usually like geographically confined to like within 30 miles or something like that. So you could probably still do locums, if you wanted to like go to West Virginia and like work in a hospital a little bit and earn some extra money for a weekend. Like you could probably still do that, even if you do have a non-compete. Obviously, you want to, look at all that before you do anything. But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Um, Taxes, big one. Yeah, your salary might be higher, but if you're going from Tennessee to California where you weren't paying any state income tax and now you're paying a lot of state income tax, maybe that increase in salary is offset by the increase in taxes. So something to look at there. What are your federal plus state taxes going to be? Not to mention other taxes, property taxes. Like you might go to a state, oh, look, cost of living so much lower. Holy smokes, my top property taxes are 30 grand a year on this house. I was paying 10 previously. Like, what the heck? I mean, all states got to balance their budget somehow. So if they don't have
Mm-hmm.
state income tax, they're collecting revenue in other ways, whether it's
Yep.
property taxes, sales taxes, usage taxes. Like if you live in Washington and own a car, you're supposed to pay tax every year on using your car. Um, so they got to make their money. It's not just this magical, oh yeah, this state just runs more efficiently and doesn't need as much money as the state I was in previously. Like that's not the case. They all got to pay for roads, firefighters, police officers, etc. How are they paying for that? Now it could, be more beneficial if you're spending, sales taxes go up on retail spending, but income taxes go down. Well, what's that difference? Is it, at your income level, you might save a lot more in income tax than you're paying in sales tax. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why we got to look at all this stuff together, not just individually. Cost of
Yep.
living, another big one. Not just housing costs. Yes, housing costs are a simple one to look at. What's a comparable home in this new city state neighborhood that I want to be in, but what does a cost to get a sandwich? What are groceries? What's a gallon of milk, eggs, hot dog? Um, yeah, it could be significantly more in that new location just simply because everything's more expensive. They got to pay higher wages to employees there because housing costs is higher. So everything's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more expensive there. You can just Google cost of living calculators, and there's plenty of them out there that you can compare. If I live in this city and make this much money, what are my costs compared to moving to this new city making that much money and or the
Mm-hmm.
same amount of money? And it'll show you like housing costs, costs for groceries, taxes, etc., and break it down. And it's like, yeah, a dollar in Arkansas is worth 73 cents in New York, or vice versa. Dollar in New York is worth $1.50 in Arkansas. So it's you can kind of get a better idea of what the total implication is for that transition.
Yep, absolutely. Retirement plans and other benefits are a really important one to think about because that is monetary value for you. So, with the retirement plans, you want to kind of look at what is my existing retirement plan? What's my new retirement plan look like? How much is my employer contributing? Is there matching? Do they just make profit sharing contributions or other like non elective contributions? Like they automatically put in 5% or something like that. And that varies a lot from place to place. Is there a pension at one of these employers and not the other? Is it employer paid? Like, are they just putting money into a pension for me, which can lead to, perhaps a monthly benefit in retirement if I'm there long enough? And then, are you able to invest more or less money in your new employer's plans versus your old ones? Like, do they have multiple retirement plans you can potentially put money into and have some tax deferred savings or Roth savings, either way? One thing to think about is with your current employer, are you leaving unvested employer contributions behind? So if they put money in your retirement account, that is not automatically yours the second they put it in. Most employers have some sort of vesting schedule where, if you've been there 2 years, you get this percentage. If you've been there 5 years, you get this percentage. And if you've been there long enough, you probably get to take all those employer contributions with you. If you haven't, then you don't. So that's something just to look at. It doesn't necessarily make a difference in your decision making, but it's a good idea to understand all the implications of the decision that you're making.
Could impact the timing of the decision. Like if your
Yeah,
employer,
especially if it's just going to be a few months.
yeah, like I know profit sharing contributions often have a longer vesting schedule. It might be a 6 year vesting period. And some of my clients, they're getting a lot of money, like private practices of a few folks at certain hospitals where the employer puts the full 70,000 a year in to their 401k on their behalf. And that's a lot of money that if you've been there for 3 years, but you need to stay there 5 years to get the full amount, I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that you could be leaving behind if you were to leave. So, yeah, it could be worth waiting just a few months till you get through that full calendar year to be officially vested, or maybe another year and then you look at bouncing.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's some real money that you could be leaving on the table. And then same with the next place. Hey, their salary's higher, but if they don't put any money in your retirement plan and the old place did,
Yeah.
that means you're going to have to save more for retirement to ultimately, meet your goals. And are you willing and able to do that? So that higher salary might just all be going towards retirement anyways, and it's really not an increase in net pay at the end of the day that goes into your pocket. The
Mm-hmm.
other benefits, you know,
Ooh, let's talk about the employee deferral limit real quick. So when
oh
you're
yeah,
switching jobs, you can put 23,500 into a 401k or 403b in 2025, but that is a combined limit between all of the plans that you're contributing to. So if you switch mid-year, you just want to make sure you don't put more than that in there, because if you do, you have to fix it and it's just kind of a pain in the rear. So it's not like the end of the world if it happens, but pay attention to that. The other thing is that if you are thinking about changing jobs, or you're going to be changing to jobs, let's say you're at one employer and they match, but you're not going to be vested by the time you leave. You might not want to put any in that plan, especially if your new employer will be matching. So you can put your 23,500 in that plan and it gets matched. Whereas in the old plan, maybe you wouldn't take any dollars from that. So you can kind of think about the timing of those contributions with those various employers too.
or maybe you front load the plan at your
Yep.
current job before you leave so that, maybe the next job you're taking a couple months in between, you can't enroll in the 401k right away.
Yeah.
Like, let's
Sometimes
just
there's a
max it
waiting
out
period.
in the first 6 months, be done, and then start
Yep.
fresh the following year. But yeah, if you do contribute more than the 23.5 between multiple employers' plans, you just have to call one of the plan sponsors, like, the company that the 401k is held with, and say, hey, I had two multiple employers. I contributed a total of 30,000 this year to the 401ks. I need to withdraw 6,500 as an ineligible excess contribution. And then they'll just send you a check and it'll adjust your W-2. So, um,
Mm-hmm.
not a big deal. Kind of annoying though. You got to make a phone call and wait on hold. And
Get new
uh,
tax forms. You can't file your taxes until you're done,
although I don't
etc.
know if it would impact your, because if it's 2025 and you over contributed in 2024 and you're withdrawing the excess in 2025, would that impact your 2024 taxes or 2025?
Do they do like a revised W-2?
I don't know.
I think they do. So I
Maybe.
think it yeah,
This
so I
this
think it
would
would
be an
be
HR and tax professional question.
yes.
So,
Ask your CPA.
yep. But yeah, anyways, something to keep an eye on because there are penalties if they catch you and you've over contributed. Let's see, other benefits to consider, the health insurance. Maybe you were paying for it at the old place. The new pays for your whole family to have health insurance. It's a better plan, whatever. Um, maybe the health plan cover, maybe you have a child with certain ailments and needs certain medications and it wasn't covered on the old plan. The new plan will cover it. That could be a reason to consider moving. Disability and life insurance, especially if you have health issues and can't qualify for private coverage outside of work, finding an employer that offers a solid policy with a large benefit could be appealing for you. Or if the next place doesn't offer much, consider increasing your existing coverage or buying a new plan to fill that gap if you're losing some coverage there. There might be some fringe benefits that may not make or break the decision, but like, I don't know, some
Health
legal
savings
services, health
accounts.
savings
Yeah.
accounts. Maybe they
Mm-hmm.
give you free lunches at the cafeteria if you like the
Short-term
hospital.
disability. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Partnership opportunities. If you're going into a private practice, hey, can I become a partner? What's the buy-in? What's the timeline for doing that? What do I need to do to jump through those hoops? How is the partnership buy-in funded? Is it like I gotta go get a bank loan? Do I just kind of pay in over time? Are there ancillary income streams I can buy into or participate in? Like, does the practice own any real estate, like the building that we work in, the surgery centers that we refer patients to, a lab? Different states have different rules on who can own what, but there might be some ancillary income streams you potentially could participate in that could be lucrative. If you're going to work at a pharmaceutical or medical device company, often they'll offer stock options or RSUs in their compensation package, which can ultimately be pretty lucrative. Like I have some clients that are getting six figures a year in stock from the company. And especially after you've been there a few years, and there's typically a multi-year vesting period. You know, you might need to be there for 3 years before your stock is vested. But if you get a new grant every single year, like it's just part of the compensation package. So after 3 years, you're fully rolling. Like it can be a pretty significant amount that's vesting every single year, especially if the company is doing well and growing and that stock price is increasing. Um, so that's something to consider as well. We won't go into all the specifics on the inner workings of stock options and RSUs today, but if that
No,
is
thank you.
you, reach out to us. Happy to chat about it. It can be exciting and have some tax implications too.
For sure. Yep.
Malpractice, that's a big one. If
Yep. Like, what
you're
are the implications of you leaving your job? Like, do you have to purchase tail coverage? Like, just to make sure that the insurance, like the malpractice that you have, continues to cover you for things that happened while you were with your old employer. And then, if there is tail coverage required, is your old employer going to pay for it? If not, will your new employer pay for it to kind of like buy you out of that job that you're currently in? So totally worth asking.
look at your
I think,
contract, like what's in the
yeah,
contract that you signed, like that's
yep,
probably a telling tale. And you can potentially negotiate on your way out. And especially with the next employer, like, hey, this contract says I have to pay my own tail to get me to move to you guys. Will you pay it for
cover
me?
it. Yeah,
It's usually like
absolutely.
a
I think it's,
one-time amount you just buy, it might be $30,000 to pay for a lifelong tail policy. Um,
yep, probably harder to negotiate with the employer that you're leaving. But, potentially the new employer, they want you to come work for them.
I mean, you might be able to
Um,
like, hey, I'll stay an extra 3 months if you cover my tail. Like there could
yeah,
be like, hey, we
totally.
need to find someone to fill your shoes. It's hard to do
Yep.
that. So like there you could if are leaving on good terms, give them advance
Hmm.
notice and stuff. Like you might
Yep.
be able to work the hustle.
Yep. And then with the new employer, just be really aware of those implications as well. Like, do they pay for malpractice? Do you need your own? Will they cover tail if you end up leaving at some point? So lots of things to consider. If you are moving costs is a good thing to ask for, maybe like a signing bonus or a relocation bonus. Um, I mean, other financial implications to kind of think about when you're making this big change is selling your home, buying a new home, considering like keeping your current home as a renter. Like, there's just so many things to think about. There will be costs for moving, whether it's a big van and you load it up yourself with friends, which is pretty unlikely, to hiring movers, shipping stuff, buying new furniture in a new home if you buy a new home. Because chances are you'll move in and you'll be like, none of my stuff fits in here. And you'll feel like you need new stuff, which may or may not be the case. But there's always those big transition costs for sure.
Let's see what to do ahead of a career transition or job change, really. Um, Take your time,
Yes.
consider the financial and family implications. Money is one aspect, but consider the income, the cost of living, the taxes. Are you closer or farther from relatives and friends? Like maybe you want to move farther away from relatives. I remember there was a great Everybody Loves Raymond episode where he's got a map drawn. He's like, all right, if we're inside this circle, we're too close. Our parents will be here every day. If we're outside this bigger circle, we're too far because then when they come visit, they'll want to stay overnight. We need to be in this range, this ring here, so it's close enough for day visits, but they won't be over every day. Um, So yeah, do you have teenagers? Are you pulling them from school, moving them to a new school? Like that can be traumatic and impact your family significantly. Like, are they good at making new friends or are they kind of shy and quiet? And is it going to be a tough transition for them? Do you want to put them through that? Like, consider the weather and amenities in the new location. Do you like rain? If so, come to the Pacific Northwest. If you don't like rain, don't come to the Pacific Northwest. Like,
Stop it, Corey. I don't love rain, but I can be here and I can handle the few months of rain in order to see the green and have the lovely summers.
the six
So
months of rain. Yeah.
you just
Um,
need a little resilience. It's okay.
it's yes, it's good, but some people they
It's
like
some for some people it's a deal breaker
they
for
like the
sure.
sunshine. They don't like the gray skies. They don't
Yep.
like the 3 week long drizzle that you sometimes get in Portland or Seattle. They like their Dunkin' Donuts coffee. They don't want the super bold stuff that we got out west. Um, but yeah, it's a real thing. Like we have some neighbors that were like, yeah, we didn't realize it. And we're in a different part of Oregon. It doesn't rain as much here, but we get some snow in the winter and it gets cold at night. Like it's snowing right now, which is
It's
awesome. They're
desert.
like, we
Yeah.
didn't realize you guys got snow here. Like we were unprepared moving from California. Um, so it it can happen. Um, where are we on this list here? We're talking about weather and like hobbies, you know. I mean, it's not just
Yeah.
rain and cold, like hot summers. If you're moving to Phoenix, you can't go outside for 3 months out of the year. So you better have air conditioning and like the sun and have
Hmm.
sunscreen, lots of it.
Yep.
Is the grass really greener at the next job or next location? It might sound cool and enticing, but there's going to be downsides no matter where you go. You're going to a big city because they've got concerts and sports and restaurants and activities galore, but there's traffic and people aren't as nice and it's more expensive. Or maybe we're going to the country and we got space and we got friendly people, but no musical artists come here. There's no sports team. Like there's
And
one,
if you talk to anyone, no one agrees with you. And it
yeah, like
sucks.
they're pros and cons. What hobbies are you into? Do you like fly fishing? Well, yeah, maybe you want to go to Montana, Idaho, Utah, Oregon, Washington instead of New York. But if you're into Broadway shows, you're not getting those in Idaho or Utah or Montana. Like they'll have some plays and productions, but
Broadway on tour.
yeah,
Woo.
it's not quite the same.
Yep.
So yeah, what's consider the whole package
Yep.
of where you're going.
Yep. There's always pros and cons. Think about your new employer's financial strength. I don't think this is something that people think about frequently enough, but you know, are there rumors of a merger with a larger hospital system? Like, how are their like profit and loss reports? Are they planning to sell to private equity? Are there any conversations about that? What would that look like for you? And I have a client going through that right now who was working towards PSLF and she has less than a year to go, but her hospital is selling to private equity and that sale will very likely close before she has 120 payments. That's big. Like that's a big deal. So if you can get wind of anything like that before going to a new employer, it's good to consider.
Negotiate,
Negotiate. Yes, I
negotiate,
think that's like
negotiate, negotiate.
it's so big. It's so, so, so huge. Like higher salary, bigger signing bonus. They pay for malpractice, not you. You want more time off. You want protected research time. You already have a job, but they don't have you. Like they are trying to hire someone and you are negotiating from a position of strength if you already have a good job and maybe you want to leave, but they don't know how bad you want to leave. They have no idea. So, just there's you can ask for things. Don't feel like you can't. Don't feel like it means they're gonna like not offer you the job anymore. I don't know that I have ever had that happen to a client. Like I asked for too much and they told me to take a hike. Like, have you ever had that happen, Corey?
I don't think so,
Yeah.
unless they just haven't told me. But yeah, I've had numerous clients, even if they wanted to leave their current setting, they wanted to go to a new setting. They'd been in talks with the new place and they negotiated higher salaries, six-figure signing bonuses. It's like, hey, I want to come here, but you got to make it work for me financially. Like I'm not just gonna roll over and work for free. Like I got family, I need a house. Like you have a state with high taxes, high cost of living, whatever the case is. Um, take your time, don't rush into it, ask for more. They can always say no, and then you counter with, something else. And you don't have to be petty about it or ask for an ostentatious amount that they're going to say no to. But do some research, some digging, read some articles, listen to some podcasts, go to a course on salary negotiation specific for your field, practice, a specialty, whatever. Um, get some insight there. You could even potentially hire an attorney to help you on that negotiation side if it's a pretty
Mhm.
significant compensation package you're looking at. Now, like if you're 1 year out of residency working as a hospitalist and you just want to go to a new hospital, like your negotiating power is probably going to be a little more limited unless it's, a location that just is desperate for people. But if you've built up a bit of a reputation and have a good career track record, you have a refined specialty, like, your services are in demand and hard to find. Like you should be compensated appropriately, especially if you're moving and all of the costs that come with transitioning. Like they should give you something to sweeten the pot to get you out there.
Yep.
Um,
Academic institutions, it is harder. They have a set salary
yes.
schedule and things like that most of the time. It's like, this is how much we pay people who have been here for 3 years. Like it's like this is it. This is what you get. But sometimes with those jobs, you can negotiate with like within a small window and potentially ask for more support with things like relocating. So those are the things and sign on bonuses, maybe they can wiggle a little bit on that in a
Well, and
certain
I
case.
think with academics specifically, really negotiating the protected research time versus clinical time. If you're doing research, like, do I have to teach med students?
Do I want to?
Yeah, what are my roles and responsibilities? Let's get it in writing with all this stuff. Get it in writing. Hire an attorney to review the contract, especially if it's more than just your standard cookie cutter hospital or university contract. Like you said, Rochelle, if you're going to work at an academic place, there's probably not a whole lot of wiggle room on the salary. They're probably not changing the contract language for you. Um, so maybe you don't need the top dollar attorney to review it, but asking about things like the time off, the research time, et cetera. Do they have multiple locations? Are you expected to, cover it each and every one of them? Are you going to be driving multiple hours all over the state to potentially see patients at these places? Get it in writing. If you don't want to drive all over, say I'll work at this location and this location only. You will not send me elsewhere. Um, that's final. Or like if you they are going to send you elsewhere, like you're going to pay for transportation, lodging, food, and give me an extra $1,000 $2,000 a shift to on top of my regular pay to go to this Timbuktu location you're sending me off to. So, um,
I think
ask
one
and you shall
more,
receive.
hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. If you don't
Yeah,
ask, you won't get it.
that's for sure. I think one of the hardest things to do is like wait to buy a house. But that's a big one. So usually when people are making big changes geographically speaking, like we're moving from one city to another, from one state to another, it's a good idea to rent and get settled before you buy. Um, and I have had like I've told clients this and they've just been like, we're gonna buy. And sometimes that's the decision you make. But understand that that's kind of a risky decision. When you do that, you're making a big commitment because you're paying all of these transaction costs to like get into a home. If it ends up not working out and you have to sell that house, you're going to pay a lot of money to get out of that house too. So just keep in mind that that is kind of risky when we're starting a brand new job and we don't really know if for sure if it's going to be a good fit or not. Like you may be 90% sure this job seems great, but there's always that like little question mark. Like I haven't actually worked there yet. I don't actually know how this is going to go.
For sure. Yeah.
No.
I think that's a big one. Moving twice sucks, but buying a house and having to sell it a year later also probably sucks more because you're moving and taking the hit on a real estate commission and selling stuff. Yeah, pain in the
Mm-hmm.
butt.
Yep.
Um, any other considerations?
I think those are the big ones. Again, we said this a couple times, but just take your time, especially if you're already working in a job where you're getting paid well, you're already pretty established. Like you are kind of looking at this from a position of comfort. Like we're okay right now. Like we can maintain this for a little bit. And just do a good job of doing your research.
I guess one thing we didn't really touch on, I don't think, is the credentialing. Like you might have to get board
Hmm.
certified in that next location, which could be a process. So something to consider
Timing.
there. How long is that going to take? The costs associated with it. Ask for support from the next employer. Like, hey, I got to get credentialed here. What can you do for me in the meantime while I'm working through that? So
Yep.
there might be
Awesome.
some assistance they could give you. Oh, I guess another thing, the gap in health insurance coverage when you're leaving, especially if like you're not starting the next day at the next employer. You're going to have potentially a couple months of no health coverage. Um, so looking into either doing Cobra, getting a policy on the exchange. With Cobra, you can enroll up to 60 days retroactively after the fact. Um, you could also potentially negotiate with the new employer, like, hey, can you have my official contract start date be this date so I can continue health insurance, but like I don't actually start working for a month or two later? Is there a way to work that out so at least I can get on the health insurance plan early enough, or
Yeah.
see what they can work out for you there? Maybe it's they structure it so like your official, maybe you start at the end of the month, so your health coverage begins on the first of the month. So you got 30 days, even though you're not working, you're covered for health insurance. So there could be some loopholes there they could help you with to continue that coverage.
Yep. That's important. You don't want to be without health insurance.
I think that's all.
Yeah. Little couple add ons at the end
Yeah.
there.
All
Thanks for
right.
listening, everyone.
We'll see you next time.